Well, Kamala Harris has been a candidate for president for exactly 100 days. And on the 100th day of her presidential campaign, only 7 days to go before Election Day, Kamala Harris once again delivered the most important speech of her life. All recent presidential candidates have had at least 500 days of campaigning before their last closing argument speech as a presidential candidate. Not Kamala Harris. When President Biden stepped back from the presidential campaign in July and immediately endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris had the least amount of time to campaign for president than any candidate since the invention of television. And so on August 22nd, when she delivered her acceptance speech after winning the presidential nomination at the Democratic National Convention, that was accurately described then as the most important speech of her life. When she then crushed Donald Trump in a televised presidential debate in September, that was described then as the most important television moment of her life, and it was. But in this historic and quick Kamala Harris presidential campaign, the most important moment just keeps coming. And so tonight, the vice president made her closing case for her candidacy in a powerful speech she chose to deliver at the scene of the crime, the same place where federal and state prosecutors have accused Donald Trump of committing the crime on January 6th of trying to overthrow the presidential election by ordering his troops to go to the Capitol and fight like hell while telling them the lie that he would go to the Capitol with them. Donald Trump is a criminal defendant in Georgia and Washington, D.C. tonight because, among other things, of what he said in that speech on the south side of the White House, in the same place where the Vice President of the United States stood tonight. Like any time-limited, high-pressure event, as the clock ticks down to the final hour, to the final minute, the pressure only builds and builds. And so tonight, on the 100th day of her presidential campaign, with only 7 days left, with a country on edge about the outcome, the first words the vice president spoke that could seem like a mere scheduling point in any other speech were loaded with drama tonight for everyone listening. 1 week from today.
1 week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates. It is a choice about whether we have a country rooted in freedom for every American or ruled by chaos and division. Many of you watching have probably already cast your ballots. But I know many others are still considering who to vote for, or whether you'll vote at all. So tonight, I will speak to everyone about the choice and the stakes in this election. Look, we know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. An election that he knew he lost. Americans died as a result of that attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack. And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television, he was told by his staff that the mob wanted to kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: "So what?" America, that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who is asking you to give him another 4 years in the Oval Office.
Kamala Harris gave herself 2 jobs to do in tonight's speech. First was to prosecute the case against allowing convicted felon Donald Trump to return to the White House. And the other was to advocate for a Kamala Harris presidency.
What Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many, one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything. In fact, we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own family, right? It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate. And the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. That's right. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together. America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America. Now look, let me say, I recognize this has not been a typical campaign. Even though I've had the honor of serving as your vice president for the last 4 years, I know that many of you are still getting to know who I am. Well, let me tell you, I am someone who has spent most of my career outside of Washington, D.C., so I know that not all the good ideas come from here. I am not afraid of tough fights against bad actors and powerful interests, because for decades, as a prosecutor and a top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. And I did this work because for as long as I can remember, I have always had an instinct to protect. There's something about people being treated unfairly or overlooked that frankly just gets to me. I don't like it. It's what my mother instilled in me, a drive to hold accountable those who use their wealth or power to take advantage of other people. The drive to protect hardworking Americans who aren't always seen or heard and deserve a voice, and I will tell you that is the kind of president I will be. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but here's what I promise you. I will always listen to you, even if you don't vote for me. I will always tell you the truth, even if it is difficult to hear. I will work every day to build consensus and reach compromise to get things done. And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way.